مساء الخير واهلا بحضراتكم. لقاء يتجدد وجناب السفير. جولتنا النهارده مع سعاده سفير جمهوريه البرازيل بجمهوريه مصر العربيه، سعاده السفير أنطونيو باتريوتا. سعاده السفير بقاله في مصر حوالي سنه. هو جه مصر اكتر من مره، لكن المره دي جاي كسفير، قبل كده جه كوزير خارجيه. هيكلمنا عن الأماكن اللي زارها في مصر، هيكلمنا عن العلاقات بين مصر والبرازيل وتطورها، عن القهوة البرازيلية المتميزة، عن رقصة السامبا البرازيلية الشهيرة، عن الرياضة طبعا في البرازيل وتنظيمهم للمناسبات الرياضية والبطولات الرياضية العالمية، عن كرة القدم طبعا البرازيلية الشهيرة، والعلاقة بين مصر والبرازيل في مجال الثقافة، في مجال الفن، مشاركتهم في المهرجانات السينمائية في مصر. هيكلمنا عن حاجات كتير وهيعرفنا أكتر عن البرازيل. Nice to meet you, sir, and welcome to our program. And it's my pleasure to talk about Brazil in my program.
مساء الخير شيرين.
مساء النور.
Nice to be here.
Me too. You have been here in Egypt since 1 year, almost 1 year?
A little more than 1 year, yes, 1 year and 3 months.
So we'll talk first about your impression about Egypt and the places you have been before here in,
well, you know,
Egypt.
I've always been fascinated by Egypt with its more than 5,000 years of written history and the historical sites. Also, Egypt as an important player in world affairs and a fundamental actor here in the Middle East, in Africa and in the Arab world. So it's been an experience that I consider among the most interesting in my career, and I've also met many wonderful people in your country. It's a country of friendly people, very capable diplomats, and whereas there is no shortage of places and different experiences to be had.
Where have you been here in Egypt? You told me you visited many places such as Luxor, Aswan and Hurghada.
Absolutely, yes. Exactly 1 year ago, I went on a dahabeya. Nur el Nil was the name of the company. They're great people. From Luxor to Aswan and stopping on the way at Edfu and Komombo, and then also I visited Abu Simbel later in the year. And I hope to be able to go back because one only scratches the surface in the first few trips. There's so much to discover. But a very rewarding experience has been to discover that Egypt has wonderful sea coasts. So not only the northern sea coast, where I've been to near El Alamein, also Sharm el Sheikh and the Sinai, and Al Guna.
You went to Sahel al-Shamali?
I went to Sahel al-Shamali, and actually several times. You also have excellent touristic infrastructure, very good roads, very good hotels, world-class hotels with good cuisine. So it really is a pleasure traveling around Egypt and discovering the many landscapes and the many different places. Recently, I also had interesting experience in the oasis of Siwa, near the Libyan border, which is a fantastic environment to be discovered with a very good infrastructure.
You can make meditation and relaxation in this desert place.
Yeah, and break away a little bit from the cell phone and, you know, the pressures of everyday life.
It's pure life.
Exactly.
الحقيقة سعادة السفير كلمني عن ان هو بقاله سنة ونص تقريبا او سنة وشوية في مصر، وزار اماكن كتير منها الغردقة، شرم الشيخ، الأقصر وأسوان. آخر رحلة كمان كانت لواحد سيوة، واستمتع جدا بالمناخ هناك والقعدة في الصحراء بعيدة عن كل مصادر التكنولوجيا، في استرخاء تام وتأمل تام. We'll talk about Brazil, we'll talk about antiquities and about the relations in this field between Brazil and Egypt, about monuments and about historical places.
Yes, well, you know, compared with Egypt, our written history is quite recent, 500 years compared with 5,000 years. But there are many places of historic interest in Brazil. There are the colonial cities within the state of Minas Gerais, where gold was found in the 17th century. There are large urban centers like Rio and São Paulo that are very cosmopolitan with a variety of cuisines. You know, we are a real melting pot with people from all origins of the world, including a very large community of Arab.
You told me you have 16%.
16% of parliamentarians in Brazil have
from Arabic origin.
Have Arabic origin, which is a big representation because in the proportion of the population, they would be about 6%. 10 million people, mostly of Syrian Lebanese descent that migrated around 100 years ago, before or after World War I. But they have left a very strong imprint in our identity, with many Arab descendants playing an important role in politics, in the sciences, in medicine.
But they live in peace.
They live in peace in Brazil, the Jews, Arabs, Christians.
Everyone has the same rights?
People of African descent, everyone has the same right, and discrimination is outlawed by our constitution. Of course, we still have a challenge in terms of ensuring that Brazil becomes a more equal society, because there are social disparities. To a great extent, this is also a consequence of our past with a large slave population, that I mentioned before. But in recent years, there have been important social programs. Some of them have been replicated here in Egypt.
What about the role of women?
The role of women is one that I'm very much committed to, because I will tell you that when I was ambassador to the United Nations, I was the president or the chairman of the Committee on the Status of Women. So I am a feminist myself in many respects, because I believe that we will only promote more equal societies if men engage very much in this topic. It's not only a topic for women, it's a topic for everyone, and the entire society stands to benefit.
If men share this topic, it will be famous for women to make men share their rights.
Yeah, and there are many rationales, not only from a human rights perspective or a moral perspective, but even economic self-interest.
What about women in the foreign minister?
Well, women have assumed a very important role in the foreign ministry. I find the proportion is still a little bit low, because about 22% of Brazilian diplomats are women. In fact, I believe that in Egypt is similar, a similar number.
The same percentage.
Yeah, but in recent years, more and more female ambassadors have been occupying important positions. So, for example, before I became ambassador to the United Nations, my predecessor was a woman. She was ambassador for 6 years to the United Nations. We have had undersecretaries who are also female. And I hope that this is a trend that will strengthen in the coming years.
If we talk about Brazilian cuisine, what are we going to say about this different dishes and different origin of dishes in Brazil?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to say that there is a Brazilian restaurant in Cairo that was reopened recently at the Four Seasons Giza, right on the Nile inside a boat. It's called Xodó. So for those who are interested, they can sample Brazilian barbecue and some, you know, Brazil is a very large country, so there are different cuisines depending on the region. In the south, you have the typical barbecue. That is a tradition we share with Argentina and Uruguay. In Bahia State, which we were talking about, you have a cuisine that is very strongly influenced by the Nigerian migration. So the Yoruba ethnic group brought along palm oil and coconut milk, and so you have stews of fish and shrimp.
What are the main ingredients in Brazilian food?
Main ingredients? Well, the staple food, what would be the equivalent to, I don't know, tameya or ful in Egypt, is rice and beans and beef. We are big beef producers, exporters, and we also consume a lot of beef. But you have these varieties according to the region. Manioc is a very important staple. You know, it's a root that grows like potato under the earth, and it was very much used by the indigenous Brazilians before the Portuguese colonizers came along, and we still use that in our cooking. In the north, you have the Amazon River fish that are very large and tasty and a different tradition altogether. So I'm sure it will be an enjoyable experience if Egyptian tourists start coming more to Brazil.
What's your most favorite dish here in Egypt?
My favorite dish in Egypt?
Yeah.
I have to tell you that I really like the fruits and the vegetables in Egypt. I find they're very tasty.
Fresh.
So betengen, and then you have the oranges, portuan, and the roman is excellent.
You said it Arabic language, yeah?
A little bit, a little bit. I love fatir with
Fatir.
molasses that you have for breakfast. And I love Ali as a dessert.
with milk.
Yeah, exactly.
سعادة سفير كلمنا عن المطبخ طبعا في البرازيل وقد ايه هو متنوع حسب المنطقة، لكن هم الأساسي عندهم الرز والبيف، هم مشهورين جدا باللحوم، وطبعا بيصدروا لكل أنحاء العالم والمصر. وزي ما قلت ان المنطقة هي بيعتمد عليها طريقة الطهي للأكل، وعندهم كمان طبعا الأسماك لأنه عندهم شواطئ كبيرة جدا وشاسعة. We will talk about sports in Brazil, famous football in Brazil, and championships and organizing championships all over the world, and the sports relationship between Egypt and between Brazil.
Well, yesterday I attended the opening ceremony of the handball championship that Egypt is hosting, and a Brazilian team will be arriving, I believe, today or maybe tomorrow, and the first game will be against Spain. We are looking forward to some exciting games. But as you know, Brazilians and Egyptians are big soccer fans, big football fans.
Yeah.
You have Mo Salah, who's
Salah.
one of the most famous soccer players in the world today. We've had Pelé and Ronaldinho and others in the past, Neymar nowadays also. Pelé, of course, yeah. And Brazil still holds the distinction of being the only country that has won 5 World Cups. So we are very proud of this achievement. Also, soccer is a very democratic game in Brazil. People from all backgrounds and all social classes play together in the beach or in their neighborhood fields. So I think it symbolizes this ability that Brazilians have to come together across different identity that groups may have, and to all enjoy themselves around team spirit.
So we'll talk also about Brazilian samba and the famous samba in Brazil. What you are going to say about this special dance?
Well, samba is a Brazilian speciality. It is a rhythm that dates back to about 100 years, and it combines different roots. So, of course, the strong syncopated percussion comes from sub-Saharan Africa, from the migrants that include some Muslim Africans that came from around the coast of Guinea. I mentioned Nigeria.
They put some changes in samba according to their
yes,
origin?
Through the,
through the years and centuries?
There are different types of samba, yes.
I know.
And there is a more modern version, which is bossa nova. That is like a mixture between samba and jazz. And it was an urban development, whereas, the original samba was
and
more...
there is a classical samba, which is...
Classical samba, I don't think that can be explained in those terms, because it's always been a very popular, let's say, it has never pretended to be a erudite or a classical form of music. But it is sophisticated, and it is one type of music that every Brazilian identifies with. And I personally am a big enthusiast of Brazilian music. I play some piano myself, and I have even recorded some of my songs.
It's good. It's good.
In a CD.
You're a musician, huh?
Yeah, I am amateur.
A writer
musician.
sometimes, a musician
yes, exactly.
sometimes.
Yeah. I try.
That's why you study philosophy. Makes
Well,
you different kinds of
it
men.
opens many doors, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
of the mind,
Open-minded.
but I don't pretend to be professional. I just love music, and I find that Brazilian music has something to offer for every taste. You know, it has.
It's some sort of an inspiration.
Well, yes,
Yeah, that's
There is
the thing.
slower samba. There is more, active for dancing,
Yeah.
and of course, Carnival is where everything comes
Yeah.
together. And we have the samba schools of Rio de Janeiro. This is an extraordinary sight to be seen that everyone should experience once in a lifetime, I believe.
اتكلمنا طبعا عن رقصة السامبا الشهيرة في البرازيل، وانه في انواع مختلفة من السامبا لكل منطقة، وانه المكان في البرازيل يعني او الاماكن المتعددة بجنسيات او اشخاص لهم اصول مختلفة، خلى ان في انواع مختلفة اضافت للسامبا واشكال كتير اضافت للسامبا. So we'll talk about the culture cooperation between Egypt and between Brazil, especially in cinema field and films, production of Brazilian films. And you're sharing in the Cairo Film Festival, El Gona Film Festival, and someone is coming from Brazil to share as one member of the jury in
correct.
this competition. So we will talk about this cinema cooperation between Egypt and between Brazil.
Yes, I think many in Brazil admire Egyptian cinema, you know, directors like Youssef Chahine and, of course, Omar Sharif, who's an international celebrity. Unfortunately, we don't know enough about Egyptian cinema, and I think there is scope for much more discovery. But Brazil is also an important center for producing movies, and I was very pleased to attend the Alguna International Film Festival that took place last October. And I've been to 2 editions of the Cairo Film Festival. Brazilian films have been showcased, including an excellent documentary by director Bárbara Paz. She is a female director. We were talking about the role of women. I know you have female directors also here in Egypt. And she made a documentary about her husband, who was a film director himself, who passed away 1 or 2 years ago, Héctor Babenco, of Argentinian origin. And more recently, as you have mentioned, a Brazilian director of Arabic descent called Karim Aynuz, his father was born in Algeria, actually, was part of the jury of the Cairo International Film Festival. And he told me he was absolutely fascinated by Cairo. He wishes he could have stayed here 1 month, but he could only stay 1 week.
Thank you for your coming here to our program and give us a brief information about Brazil. We want to talk more and more about Brazil. Thank you for being here in our program.
It's been a pleasure for me, Shireen. Thank you.
Thank you. في نهاية لقائنا بنشكر سعادة السفير أنطونيو باتريوتا سفير جمهورية البرازيل بجمهورية مصر العربية. بنشكر حضراتكم. كلمنا سعادة السفير عن نقاط كثيرة جدا من الثقافة والفن والسينما والتعاون بين مصر وبين البرازيل، وأنه كان في أحد المخرجين البرازيليين اللي من أصل جزائري كان بيشارك في لجنة التحكيم في مهرجان القاهرة السينمائي الدولي، وقد إيه التعاون بين مصر وبين البرازيل في مختلف المجالات. كل مرة مع حضراتكم في جناب السفير بنعرف أكتر عن ثقافات مختلفة، عن أنواع وحكايات مختلفة، عن فنون الشعوب، عن ثقافتهم، عن تاريخهم. شكرا وإلى اللقاء.